Hi, my name is Nicole Heinlein. I am a teacher at Carrolltown Elementary and I teach third grade. And in third grade is really where we start to develop this foundation for this understanding of fractions. And so what we're going to take a look at today is how we name a fraction in the first place. So we're going to look at two really key words here today. The first is the whole. That means the thing that is being divided up into equal pieces. For example, a pizza, or it could be a tray of brownies, or it could even be a football field. And we're also going to look at this word, which is probably a little bit less familiar to us. It was to me whenever I started learning about this, and that is called the unit fraction. And what the unit fraction is it's when we have one piece from that whole. So for example, you've ordered a pepperoni pizza and you've cut it into 8 equal pieces and you take one slice of that pepperoni pizza. That is 1/8. That is the unit fraction. In order to name a fraction, we either have to know what the whole is or we have to know what the unit fraction is. And we're going to take a look at that today and what that means. So we're going to start off with this example. In this word problem, we have some students who are playing with blocks, and they are these blocks that I have here. And these are called Cuisenaire rods, and we use them at school whenever we're learning about fractions. So there are students at recess who are playing with these blocks. And there's a little girl named Becky, and she picks up the green block. And she says, "Oh, I learned today that this is 1/2. But then another little girl, Debbie, picks up a white block, and we'll look at these a little bit closer later. But she says, "Well, I learned that this is 1/2. Uh-oh. Well, then Daryl comes in, and he has a red block, and he says, "Guys, I learned that this is 1/2. So we need to know who is correct. So we are going to do some exploration with these blocks today to decide who is correct and also to name some fractions. So just to take a closer look at the blocks that all of the children said were 1/2, these are them. We have light green, red, and white. They are clearly not all the same size. And we are going to have to figure out which one of these is 1/2. Before we do that, I'm going to do a few examples with some of these other blocks and explore some fractions. I'm going to start off with this orange rod. I'm going to tell you that this orange rod represents one whole. Now, if it helps you to think of this as one whole carrot or one whole candy bar, that's fine. So this is one whole. And I want to know how many it would take to make one whole if this rod were split in half. So I can take some of my other blocks and I can see if it works, and these ones don't, they're too short. So I can try something else, and this is what the students would be doing at school. Well, those ones are way too big, so that wouldn't work. And in the end, what I can figure out is that it takes 2 yellow blocks to make one orange block, one whole. And so this is the unit fraction, 1/2. It takes 2 of these to make one whole. I have 2 halves here total. And so what this would look like for the students at school is they might say that their whole was the orange rod, that it took the yellow rod to make it up, and it took 2 of them, and then the fraction name for the unit fraction would be 1/2. So what that looks like is there's one piece over 2 total pieces. Okay, so let's take a look at another example with the orange rod, because if I wanted to divide this whole carrot or whole candy bar up into 5 pieces, I would know I would need 5 pieces. And so I know I'm looking at smaller pieces than the yellow this time because I'm going to need more of them, so I'm going to give the red a try. Oh, first time's a charm. The unit fraction here is 1/5 because it is one piece of those 5 equal pieces. And notice that the pieces are equal. Sometimes what the kids like to do is they like to swoop something else in and say, "Oh, look, I think I made it. Look, if I put these together, oh, that equals out." But the thing is fractions need to be equal pieces for what we're learning in third grade. So these would be the fifths. And one more example. Now I'm going to ask, if I cut this into 10 pieces, what that would look like. So I know I'm looking for something even smaller than the red rods this time. And so I see how small the white are. So I'm going to use many of them. And if it takes 10 to make it, then I will be correct. And just like that, this is 1/10, this is the unit fraction of this 1 whole. And so when students would write this out, we're going to go back to the red for a second. They would say that the red rod, it took 5 of them to make the whole, and the unit fraction would be 1/5. 1 is our numerator, it is the number of pieces. 5 is our denominator, or I'm sorry, 1 is the number would be one of the pieces that we need, one of the pieces. And 5 is how many sections it was divided into. And then finally, we would have had our white. And there were 10 of them. And when we take just one of them, the unit fraction is 1/10. So now, what I'm going to do is we're just going to put these two at the side for a moment, but we are going to need to look at them. I'm going to pull out this brown rod. Now I'm going to say that this is 1 whole. So this was 1 whole before, the orange, and this is 1 whole now. So this could be a larger candy bar and a smaller candy bar, a larger carrot and a smaller carrot. This time, I'm going to figure out, if I cut this in half, what I would need in order to make this whole. Well, what the kids will usually do is they'll say, oh look, I had the half before. That worked when I worked with the orange rod. And so what they do is they take it and they put it here expecting it to work, but it doesn't. And it doesn't because the size of the whole has changed. Because the size of the whole has changed, the unit fraction has changed. And so I need to come up with a different plan. This is 1/2. This is also 1/2. So what this shows us is just because a fraction has the same name, it does not mean that it is the same thing. And that's really key to the students' understanding, because they think because it has the same name, it must be the same thing. But this is the point where I usually tell the kids, because every year there's somebody in my class who has the same name. I have 2 Bobbies. They're not the same person. So 1/2 and 1/2 are not necessarily the same thing. So now I'm going to put these to the side for a moment, and I'm just going to go, before we've looked at the size of the whole, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the size of the unit fraction. If I tell you that this is 1/3, and I need to figure out what the whole looks like, now I've kind of had to reverse my thinking a little bit. I've been starting off with the whole and finding the unit fraction. Now I'm starting with the unit fraction and finding the whole. So I know that if this is 1/3, it must take 3 of these to make 1 whole. And if it takes 3 of these to make 1 whole, this is what my whole might look like. So where does all of this take us? Well, it takes us back to our original example with our kiddos who were talking about which one of these is 1/2. Well, we learned before that the yellow rod and the purple rod could both be 1/2, even though they're different sizes. That must mean that there is at least some possibility that each of these could be 1/2. So that means that if they're all 1/2 to make 1 whole, there need to be 2 pieces for each of these sections. So I'm going to add another green piece to make 1 whole, another red piece to make 1 whole, and another white piece to make 1 whole. Now these are all very different sizes of holes. And so what I can do now is I can look to see what it would equal out to. So I know, the dark green rod must be the 1 whole, and this is 1/2. And with the red, give the purple one a try. Oh, I am so good. Yeah, look, that worked out fine there. And then finally, that looks like it's pretty close. So it turns out that all of the kiddos were right, although they probably have to improve their understanding of what 1/2 could be, because 1/2 could be the light green, it could be the red, or it could be the white. So what this means in real life, Well, these are the kinds of questions I usually ask the students. I ask them, would you rather share a $100 bill with your brother, or would you rather share a $1 bill with your brother? Well, automatically they pick the $100 bill, and that's because that would be $50. That unit fraction is $50 in that case for the students. Another example would be, if you were really thirsty, would you rather have 1/4 of a gallon of juice or 1/4 of a cup of juice? Well, that 1/4 of a cup of juice is going to be very small, and it's not going to help you quench your thirst. And then another example would be, if you were very tired and you had to go exercise today, would you rather run 1/5 of a marathon or 1/5 of a 5K? Because if you're very tired, you're probably going to pick the shorter race because that unit fraction is going to be smaller. So when we work with the students, we want them to be able to consider the size of the whole and the unit fraction before they name that fraction. This is going to be really key to their understanding as we go forward and learn about fractions. Thanks.